Hi and welcome back to the Pomegranate Girl, a knitting and sewing podcast and general creative podcast. My name is Annie. I'm a 20-something knitter and crafter based in Bristol in the southwest of the UK, and it's been a very long time since I posted an episode, so bear with me while I get back into the swing of things. You can probably tell part of the reason for my absence is the new location. So I recently moved in with my partner, so we now live together, which is lovely, and yeah, that happened about a month ago, and yeah, that is kind of delayed partially why I've been recording. And yeah, another kind of big life update that I'm just gonna get them out of the way now because they kind of explain my absence. I started a new job just after I filmed my last episode, and it was a very intense kind of transition. I was working, it's a completely new job role to me and something I'd never worked in before, kind of same industry, still working in marketing and tech, but yeah, in a slightly more senior role, so I'm now an account manager. So I went from working kind of in a company doing marketing and a more junior level to then working at a marketing agency as an account manager, which was just a big jump for me. Yeah, really enjoying my job and yeah, enjoying living in a new location, and still have been knitting and sewing a lot. Less so in the kind of past month since I've kind of moved and adjusted to living in a different place, but it has been so lovely, and that is my little ramble and kind of excuse. And I also just wanted to apologise as well. Kind of when I last left you, I was running a knit along called the StoryKnits Knit Along, and I didn't really ever end it, to be honest, because it ended just literally like the day before I started my new job. And then I started my new job and it was all quite fast paced. It was a very different like change of pace from my old job, so it always just happened, and then I kind of forgot about it, and then I was like, oh, this is way too late. And yeah, so I am going to be drawing winners because nearly 8 months later, I will be drawing winners for that knit along. So they will be left down below. I haven't done them yet, so I'm going to be doing them after I film this, and I will leave 2 winners. So there were 2 prizes. There was a skein of yarn and some stitch markers from the lovely Ophelia at Orchid's Heart. So I will be contacting both winners, and it's kind of a first come first served kind of thing. So whoever answers me first will get to have their first pick of whether they get the stitch markers or the skein of yarn, and it's kind of open internationally, so I will be shipping prizes. And I am very, very sorry it has taken me 8 months to do that, and I can only apologise for all the lovely people that entered and supported the knit along, and I just want to say sorry and thank you for bearing with me. It's very kind of you and something I don't really deserve. So yes, that was the big stuff out of the way. Yeah, and we're just going to talk about knitting today. I have been doing quite a bit of sewing actually, and since I moved I had to pack up my machine for a bit whilst I moved, but we're back. I've now got an overlocker as well. It was a very kind gift from my boyfriend for Christmas. I haven't actually had a chance to use it yet because it's a bit intimidating, and I have used an overlocker a few times, but it's never gone particularly well, and I really just need to sit down with it for a few hours. So I have been doing some sewing, but I'm just going to talk about my knitting today. I think I don't want this episode to be too long, because part of the reason that I really put off filming an episode was the editing was taking me upwards of like 3 or 4 hours, because there was so much footage, and my Mac which I edit on is very old. It's about 6 years old, and it just could not hack it anymore. So yeah, it was all it ended up being too much stress for me, to be honest, and I wasn't really enjoying that process, and that was putting me off filming. So I'm going to try and keep it shorter today, and we'll kind of see. I might talk about my sewing every now and again, but mostly I'm just going to be talking about my knitting and maybe a bit about what I'm reading if I've got time and if people are interested. So yeah, I'm going to do the classic podcaster thing of talking about what I'm drinking. I've got a cup of coffee here. This beautiful mug is from EOT Ceramics. They're a ceramicist based in Cornwall, and I got this mug from my mum for Christmas, and I also got another one of their mugs from my best friend for Christmas, so we now have a pair. And I'm drinking some coffee. This is coffee from Mammoth Coffee in London, which is really lovely coffee roasters. I can't remember the exact kind of name of this roast, but it's quite nice. It's one I chose. And yeah, Mammoth is a really lovely coffee roasters if you ever get a chance to visit. They've got some really nice cafes. There's one in Covent Garden, or in Seven Dials really. But yeah, drinking a coffee. And yeah, I'll link Emily's website down below because she does beautiful pieces of pottery. And yeah, I was very lucky to get 2 of her pieces for Christmas. So I'm kind of getting back into the swing of things. So I'm going to talk firstly about finished objects, and you probably can see one. It's what I'm wearing, and this is also probably covered with bits of thread. If you're a sewist, you'll know that you can sometimes just end up with thread everywhere, all over your clothes, and this jumper in particular is quite bad at picking it up, but I love it. And this is jumper or sweater number 18, I believe, by My Favourite Things Knitwear, knit out of, what is the company? This is when I should have written notes. I'll leave the yarn company down below. It's knit in the recommended yarn. I think the actual yarn name is like Handvaersksgarn. It's a Danish yarn. I think it is a mixture of Gotland and maybe some other breeds. I'll leave all the details linked down below. It's in the colour Marinebl, which I assume is like marine blue. Excuse my very awful Danish pronunciation. And it is held together with a strand of knitting for olive soft silk mohair in navy blue. Again, we'll leave my Ravelry page and the details if Ravelry isn't accessible to you down below. But I love this jumper. I finished it actually on Christmas Day. I'd been knitting it for a few months, kind of on and off, and I really enjoyed it. It was the first time doing a folded collar. Sorry, you can I kind of just shoved this on over the outfit I was wearing because I was like, oh, I've got to wear my finished object. It's got a folded collar, it's got drop sleeves, it's very popular, you've probably all seen it before, and it's this beautiful like kind of knit pearl texture. It's very warm. It's knit at quite kind of like an Aran weight gauge. I can't remember what the exact gauge is. I feel like it's like between 17 and 19 stitches per 10 centimeters. So it's quite a thick gauge. And this is my first time completely knitting something on wooden needles. So I bought some C-Knit Bamboo circular needles. I think C-Knit is a Japanese brand, and I found them at Wild and Woolly Shop, which is a London wool shop, but you can buy online. And yeah, I just thought it would be really nice to try knitting with wooden needles. It's something I've never done. I'm very kind of faithful to my chalgoos. So yeah, it was nice to try something else. And I really enjoyed knitting on the wooden needles. They've got a really nice, I haven't got them, they're in my needle case, which is behind me, but they have a really nice mechanism where the cord kind of spins, so it's not a fixed cord. I don't know what the technical term is, but it makes for really nice knitting. And Chalgo have recently brought out a cord system called, I think, Spin 360, which is kind of similar to that. If you want to, if you already use Chalgos, I'd recommend maybe trying those. They're very similar to this C-Knit cable, how the C-Knit cables work. But I really enjoyed that aspect of it as well. And it was just really lovely, yeah, to work with like a different needle type, because I only ever really use Chalgos. I can't remember what size I knit, but I'll knit it down below. I think I might have knitted the second largest size from the top. I will say My Favourite Things Knitwear, I love their patterns. They're not size inclusive though. And that is definitely something I'm trying my best to avoid and move away from. It's always something I've been very kind of aware of, I suppose, in what I sew, but less so in what, and even in sewing, I there's things that I haven't made that I have made from non-size inclusive patterns, but it's definitely something I'm trying to focus on more and more. I do think my favourite knitwear is my favourite things knitwear is slowly improving. One of their most recent jumpers did I think go up to a 4XL, which is still, in my opinion, not good enough. I can't remember what the finished bust measurement was of the like biggest size, but yeah, they tend to not be very size inclusive, and this is a pattern of theirs that isn't. So although I enjoyed it, I am trying to move away from their patterns. And I do believe, oh gosh, I can't remember their name, but it's someone else who I know through Instagram has done a video suggesting alternatives to my favourite things knitwear patterns that are size inclusive, but kind of follow the same kind of style and aesthetic of those patterns. I'm so sorry, I can't remember the person's name that did it, but I will leave that video down below because it's really interesting, and I think it's like got some really nice recommendations in it. So yeah, love this jumper. It is so warm, and to be honest, especially living in like quite a big city in the southwest, where it's quite temperate part of the UK, I don't really need to wear this that often, or if I do, it's more of like an outer piece and I don't need to wear a coat, but it is super warm, and we have had some very cold snaps kind of over December and January in the UK, which I got lots of wear out of. I think if I was living somewhere more rural or further north, then I think I would get a lot more wear out of it, but it's still lovely, and yeah, my flat is just a new build, so it's quite warm. But yeah, that is my first finished object. My second finished, and then my other two kind of finished objects are pairs of socks. So it was kind of hard. I've obviously finished a lot of things since filming my last episode, but what has been nice is that I can just kind of choose things that I've most recently finished, this jumper obviously being one of them. So the second pair second finished object are these very bright. These were appearing really red on camera, and they're not quite that red in real life, but these are a pair of socks knit in Whistlebear's sock yarn, which I now can't remember. I think it's called Cuthbert sock. I'll leave it linked down below. I'm being a very bad podcaster. I'm going to blame the 8-month gap that I've had. But yeah, these are just a pair of basic socks. The pattern is by Albiona McLaughlin. It's her integrated heel sock, which basically means that there's no picking up, and the heel, this is all kind of done simultaneously on magic loop. You don't need to kind of knit the heel, do the heel turn and pick up stitches for the gusset. You just kind of do it all at the same time, which is a really interesting technique, and it's actually the first kind of sock pattern that I ever knit, so it was nice returning to this pattern after having knit a lot of pairs of socks, and yeah, trying it again. The reason I chose this is because this yarn is actually a sport weight. It's 300 meters per 100 grams, and Albiona's sock pattern is for a variety of weights. She kind of suggests what size to knit based on the yarn or gauge that you get. So she had a suggestion for a sport weight sock in that pattern, so I kind of just knit the correlating size that she recommended, and they've worked out fine. Yeah, and this is kind of the heel. Sorry, I'm trying not to cover my mouth. The one thing I will say about this pattern, and it's probably my own mistake, is sometimes the kind of heel turn can be a bit gappy, and this is probably me just doing my slip knits or slip purl, like purl two togethers wrong, but it is something I noticed, and I don't normally notice that on heel turn patterns, or like, yeah, when I'm doing heel turns. So yeah, I don't know what I'm doing wrong there, but I think it's probably user error and not the pattern. So yeah, this yarn is a no nylon non-superwash sock yarn from Whistlebear. Is that what they're called? Yeah, Whistlebear, which is a UK based farm and yarn company. This is the colour Abbott's Jewel, I think. I thought it was going to be more of a kind of darker red on the website, but it's actually very bright, so I called these like my Christmas socks, and as you can see, I've yet to wear them at all. The composition is, I think, it's like 80-20, and it's either 80% mohair, 20% Wensleydale, or 80% Wensleydale, 20% mohair, and I can't remember which way around it is. But yeah, mohair and Wensleydale. So mohair is supposed to be really strong as a fibre, and I've knit these at like a fairly tight gauge, so I'm really hoping these stay up. I often wear non-superwash no nylon socks anyway. That's kind of just my preference for how they feel on my feet, and I've never really had problems with them getting holes, and I also don't mind mending. It's not my favourite thing to do, but I'm happy to do it on like a pair of socks that I've knit myself. And yeah, I actually just way prefer the feel of like a non-superwash no nylon sock yarn on my feet compared to like the merino nylon. No judgment against it. I think you often find really beautiful yarns with that composition. It just is, I don't like the feel of it as much, which is kind of why I've tended to avoid it for socks. But yeah, I haven't worn these yet. I'm looking forward to wearing them. I think they're going to be really, really warm. And I have knit them slightly longer because no nylon and like non-superwash sock yarns can actually felt a bit, which I don't mind. I think it makes them warmer and a bit more sturdier, but it just means that they can then shrink slightly when they felt, which is definitely something I have noticed in like the pairs that I first started knitting. So ever since I kind of found out about this from Emma from Woolly Mammoth Fibre Co, I have knit like a few more centimetres onto my socks so that kind of as they do felt down, they'll start to fit me perfectly. So they're very, very slightly too big at the moment, but yeah, they will eventually kind of felt down. So yeah, I finished those a few weeks ago, but haven't worn them yet because I knew I was going to be filming the podcast. And then the other finished object is actually a gift knit, and it's also a pair of socks. So let me just pop them on my sock blockers. These are metal ones from Loop London. I got them ages ago. I really like them because they've got a gap in them, so I feel like they are quite they kind of just help socks dry faster, which I really like. And they've also got this little hanging thing on them as well, like lots of sock blockers do, which I just think is really useful. So yeah, I'd really recommend these. I think they were quite cheap for sock blockers, not obviously as cheap as like plastic ones, but I feel like they were under £20 when I got them, and they're holding up really well. I think they'll last me for the rest of my life. So these are my second kind of sock finished objects, and these are the Humlebi socks by FiberTales, and these are a birthday gift for my aunt. Her birthday is at the end of February. I haven't quite woven in all my ends yet, which is why I'm kind of fidgeting with this bit at the back. So they have got this beautiful little kind of bee cable detail, and then a little bit of lace at the top, and the design is similar to Larka's Humlebi shawl. It's the same kind of motif but on a sock pattern, and when these came out, I don't really love knitting shawls, but I love the little bee stitch, so I was so glad when she brought out a kind of sock version. And these are knit toe up, so they have a fleagle, is that what it's called, heel, which I had done before. I've done it on the Andrea Mowry DRK Everyday Socks, so it was nice to kind of revisit that technique, which I do really like. And I do still prefer knitting socks kind of cuffed down. It's just like my preferred method. I find them easier to make fit. Sometimes with like a fleagle heel, I find it difficult to know, even though in the pattern it will say when to start your increases, I sometimes find that the foot can still end up being too long because I start my increases too late. So that's kind of the issue that I've sometimes had with them. But they're still really lovely, and these are, yeah, as I said, are for my aunt, and they are knit out of Woolly Mammoth Fibre Company Hearth sock, which is a 50% Jacob, 50% BFL sock blend that Emma bought out either last year or the year before, and I have a pair of socks knit out of this yarn for myself, which I love. It's slightly thicker than her natural sock, and it feels slightly more rustic. I mean, it's still to me very soft, and it just feels a bit more woolly. I think it must be the Jacobs content. It just feels slightly more woolly, and I love that. And the colours are beautiful because the base is a grey base instead of a white base. These colours are just like more heathered. So this is the colour Cognac, and I just think they're beautiful. And Emma is, yeah, I love her sock yarn. It's like my favourite. I just think it feels lovely on my feet, and I think her colours are beautiful, and I just love all the yarn that she creates. And yeah, I just really love her company and her work. So yeah, I knit these for my aunt. I finished them maybe 2 weeks ago now. So plenty of time for her birthday, which I was really glad about, that I wasn't rushing. And yeah, I'm just happy with them. Again, I knit them, as this is like a non-superwash no nylon sock yarn, I knit them slightly longer, just so that they would shrink. When they do felt and shrink, they would then fit my arm perfectly. And yeah, I'm really happy with them. I just think they're lovely, and I really hope my aunt likes them. They're a surprise, so fingers crossed. So we've done finished objects, and my ambitions of keeping this podcast down to half an hour are definitely not going to happen because we're already 20 minutes in. So next I'm going to talk about my WIPs. Oh, and this is my big WIP basket. I got this in a vintage shop in Bristol for like £10 last year, and it is great. It fits like all my knitting in it, and I just have it like in our living room, kind of by the sofa, and I just really like it. I think it's a great way of storing my projects. So yeah, let's talk about my first WIP. This is in one of my favourite project bags from Harriet at Wildwood Stitches. She is based up in Scotland. I talk about her like in nearly every podcast, so sorry Harriet. But yeah, I just love her bags. I think the fact that she uses like Harris tweed and then cotton is just lovely, and they're just beautifully made items. So yeah, I really want another of her bags actually, but I already have quite a few project bags, so I feel like I don't really need any more, but I love her work, so we'll see. So yeah, my first WIP is another gift knit, and this is for one of my best friends. It's her birthday shortly before mine in March, and I often knit her something. She is very knit worthy. I'd love to knit her a jumper at some point, because I know she'd really appreciate it. She works so hard and is so deserving of lovely hand knits, and she really appreciates kind of like the provenance of things, and also it isn't sensitive to wool, which is really handy. And yeah, she does quite a lot of like, she loves being outdoors, so I'd love to knit her a jumper. And yeah, I just think she's very deserving, as are all of my friends really. They're all very appreciative, and my family of and my partner, they're all very appreciative, which I think is lovely. So I'm always happy to knit for them. And yeah, I'm knitting her a pair of socks. So I'm knitting her the Loppe socks by FiberTales. Again, I've knit these before. I think I've shown them in a podcast actually. I knit these for myself last year or the year before, and they are just quite a simple colourwork sock design. They've got a 2x2 rib. They are supposed to have a Latvian braid, but I did those on my original version, and to be honest, it was just too much of a faff. I do like a Latvian braid. I think it looks really nice, but it's kind of, I don't know if it'd be different because this is superwash yarn, but on my version it's kind of felted a bit because it's right where my boot sits. So I just wasn't that fussed about doing it again, and I don't have very much of this yellow yarn, so I thought by just doing 2 rows of stockinette it would actually probably wouldn't take up as much yarn, which is why I did it, and still kind of gives the effect. And then it's got, yeah, this little scallop, and then just a double Loppe stitch, which I think is the fleece stitch. So I am knitting these in superwash wool just because it's like superwash with nylon content, just because my friend is busy like all of us, and I just didn't want to like make her do like hand washing, So yeah, I know she'd appreciate how being able to just stick them in the washing machine on a wool wash or hand wash them if she does want to, but I just thought I'd give her the option. And yeah, so I've just got to the heel flap. They've got a Eye of Partridge heel, I think it's called, which I never quite managed to do properly, but it looks vaguely right. And yeah, and I've just started doing the gusset decreases. So yes, I am really enjoying these. They're just such a quick knit. My colour work gauge is always slightly tighter, so I'm knitting these on a 2.75, which is what I did last time, and that worked perfectly. I'm doing the same stitch count because my friend has very similar feet size to me. So I am knitting these out of 2 balls of Lang Jawoll, which is the navy. I can't remember the colour name, but it's like Midnight Sea or navy or something, which is the main colour. Some leftovers. God. This did used to look like this, but I'm obviously not very good at skein management. Yeah, this kind of cream colour that I had used for another pair of socks, and then I'm using a really lovely hand-dyed mini skein from Lichen and Lace, which is slightly thicker. I'm just seeing if I've got the label on my desk. I do think I had it, but now my desk is a bit of a mess, so I can't find it. This is the colour Amber. I bought this from Loppe, London. I bought it online. I just love the kind of 2-dimension colour, and I couldn't find a shade of the Filcolana Arvetta or the Lang Jawoll sock yarn in a kind of colour this vibrant, so I thought I'd just get a mini skein of it. And it's a 80% merino, 20% nylon, and I think this is a similar composition of just like 75%. It might be wool instead of merino, I can't remember. I don't know if they go breed specific on this one, but yeah, I really like this. This is a really affordable yarn for people who do like the kind of ease of superwash and the kind of durability of nylon. So yeah, I don't personally love the feel of it as much, but it's really good. Like, it's quite reasonable. I think this was like £5, so you can get a pair of socks for £10, which is pretty good. And the reason I like the Lang one is because I'll show you another one. This actually spool came from this yarn. This is a kind of strand of nylon reinforcement thread. God, I'm doing a bad job of showing you. Sorry. Basically, it's a kind of fine thread that you can hold for the heels and toes. And it's a reinforcement thread, and it just makes them extra durable. I've used it on, I used the spool on the original pair of white socks that I knit, that were a test knit for Danny of Little Bobbins, that I did a few years ago, and they've held up really well, and it's worked really well. So if you kind of feel like you wear through those socks, your socks in those particular areas, I'd really recommend trying that Lang Jawoll combination, because it had worked really well for me. Unfortunately, it's obviously this one is just going to be the navy thread, and I'm doing the heel and toe in yellow, so I'm not using it on this pair. But yeah, this does have nylon in it, so I think it'll be absolutely fine. And yeah, I'm really enjoying knitting these, and I really hope my friend likes them. I've got just over a month, so I should probably get a bit of a move on with these. And I have dropped a ball of yarn on the floor. Classic. Sorry if you can hear a squeaky of a chair. I'm kind of on my desk chair, which is a little bit squeaky. So yeah, that is WIP number 1. WIP number 2 is another pair of socks that I haven't knit on in a few weeks because I've been focusing on that other pair for my friend, and they are in this project bag somewhere. They are the Hearth and Home. I think they're called the Hearth and Home socks. They're by Lindsey Fowler of Larkspur Knits. They are just a really simple kind of textured sock. It's a really simple pattern. It doesn't really need it's very easy to memorize, that's what I'm trying to say. And this yarn, this is the kind of example of when I don't love the feel of nylon, merino nylon sock yarns, but this one, the colour was so beautiful that I just kind of went for it. And this is from Ainsworth and Prynne, which is a British hand dyer, and I can't remember what the colour of this exact one is. It was in a sock set, but it's just this really beautiful like pinky browny colour, and I just think it's gorgeous. It's 75% merino, 25% nylon, or 80-20, I can't quite remember, but it's, yeah, just super beautiful. And yeah, I just love the colours in it. I think it's so gorgeous. And yeah, these socks are just, they're not quite vanilla, but they're so simple that I think they'll just show off the yarn beautifully. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to getting back to these as my kind of like main TV knitting once I finished the Loppe socks for my friend. And yeah, this is a stitch marker from Ophelia from Orchid's Heart. I love her stitch markers, they're my favourites. Yeah, so not much to show you on those ones because I haven't really progressed very far. They were my kind of in bulk cast on, which is the kind of first kind of, I wouldn't say pagan, it's kind of a pagan festival it's kind of the first kind of spring festival in the kind of pagan wheel of the year calendar, which I do kind of follow roughly. I wouldn't say I'm a religious person, but the one thing that I do enjoy is kind of celebrating those milestones, especially I feel like they're quite connected to nature, and I love the kind of spirit of them, and kind of I love feeling that, especially living in a city, even though we're very lucky in Bristol to have quite a lot of green space. It's just, I find that kind of the most, I suppose, spiritual thing that I connect to, which, yeah, don't know why I've just suddenly gone into that, but yeah, that was kind of, I like to use it as a kind of space to refocus on those things, and yeah, also use it as a chance to celebrate and cast on. So yeah, that was that. So yeah, I started those on, yeah, sometime in February. I can't remember the exact date off the top of my head. And those socks are one of my projects for my Make 9 this year, which I haven't finished anything from. I did 2 Make 9s this year. I did a knitting one and a sewing one, which you can see on my Instagram account, and I haven't made anything, and I think it's just because of the move, to be honest. And the sewing one is not hardly any of the fabric is stuff that I already have, so it involves buying new fabric, which is something I'm trying to avoid at the moment, as I've got quite a large stash. Actually, it's not too large, but it's just, you know, I've got things planned out of my stash, so it requires maybe buying new fabric, which I don't want to do. So I'm just, yeah, we'll see if I complete it this year. So yeah, they were my first knitting project from my Make 9, from my knitting version, and my second project, or my third WIP even, is also from my Make 9, and it is a hat. Oh gosh, and I haven't worked on it in a few weeks, which is why the yarn's really tangled. So this is the Broom hat by Melody Hoffman, otherwise known as Bee Mandarines, and this is knit out of 2 strands of Plutolopi and 1 strand of Isager, what do they call it? They're just their silk mohair, in the colour 37. So these, basically the Plutolopi and this Isager mohair, were leftovers from a tulip jumper that I knit. It was the second ever jumper that I knit. This tulip jumper is also a pattern by Melody Hoffman. It's a lovely raglan pattern with a kind of scalloped hem, and I basically never wear mine, so I actually recently gifted it to one of my friends, because I just never wore mine. The neckline was too wide for me really to wear, and although I loved the colour and the actual pattern, I never wore it because of that really wide neckline. So I gifted it to one of my friends, and I'm so glad that it's now actually going to get worn, hopefully, and yeah, she'll enjoy it much more than I will. So I decided that I had this leftover Plutolopi and Mohair, and I thought I would knit the Broom hat because I had enough. So the Broom hat is just a 1x1 rib hat. It's very simple. It's got kind of decreases on kind of both sides, and I saw this pattern, I think I've seen it obviously on Melody Hoffman's Instagram and her YouTube channel, but then Ophelia from Orchids Art, who's one of my favourite podcasters, she's just so lovely and I love her projects and her style. She had knitted a few of these hats and I was just influenced basically and wanted to knit one too. And it just was a really nice way of, I had just the right amount of the Plutolopi and it just felt like the perfect project for it. I don't really find Plutolopi itchy, although this is going to be on my forehead. But I think it'll be fine, and I can always kind of I only find yarn on my forehead itchy when I'm getting really hot, so I think as long as I just am aware of that, then we'll be fine. I can't remember the shade of Plutolopi, but I'll leave it linked down below, and yeah, it's just a really simple, nice project. I'm still kind of on the brim, so I need to kind of get cracking with this. It probably won't be done in time for kind of this side of winter, but hopefully by autumn I'll finish it soon and then I can wear it in the autumn and it will be all ready then, because I don't tend to wear hats that often, but yeah, I don't really know why that is. I think I just never feel, I obviously just don't feel the cold that much, so yeah, but it will be perfect for the proper winter when I do want a really cozy hat. And yeah, I'm just excited to have it finished. I kind of just cast it on in a moment of wanting to cast something on and then haven't really worked on it since. So at the moment my kind of priority is finishing the socks for my friend, but again, once I finish those I'll get a crack on with some of my other projects because everything else is just kind of being neglected at the moment. So yeah, hopefully next time I'll have more progress on that. And then the other two projects are also things that have kind of been lying in hibernation, sadly. And the first one is a jumper, and the kind of reason it's lying in hibernation is because the needles, I'm using the needles that this jumper requires for my Broom hat, which are 4mm, and I only have one pair of 4mm needles, like kind of the needle tips. So I've been, yeah, I need to finish the brim of the hat, switch to the main needle so that I can then put the needles back on this jumper. So this is something I started over my Christmas break after I'd finished this jumper, and it is just going to kind of get it into a good place to show you. Oh gosh, where am I going? It's not really on a long enough cord basically, but this is the Sarah jumper. What way around am I showing you? Yeah, this is the right way around, I think. The Sarah jumper by, I believe the designer's name is Lena Hoy, and I saw this on lovely Inga of Knitting Traditions, her podcast. She knit one of these last year or the year before, and I just loved it. It's got a beautiful kind of turtleneck, and then a raglan with this kind of knit pearl detail along it. So yeah, there's a few different neckline options actually, but I chose to knit the full turtleneck because I do really like turtlenecks in the winter. And yeah, I'm kind of just on the raglan currently, but as I said, this is kind of on pause while I'm using the needles for something else, and you really can't see this very well. I'm not doing a great job of holding it up, but yeah, hopefully by next time I might have split for the sleeves so it'll be a bit easier to kind of see. But yeah, this is obviously one sleeve. Ugh, this is the other, and yeah, this is a raglan. So this is the front. It's just a kind of classic raglan construction. It's got some short row shaping in the back, which you can't really see. So it is quite, yeah, it has got kind of that shaping element, which I really need on garments. I don't really like having no shaping at the neckline. It just doesn't, it's not comfortable for me. So yeah, really glad that this pattern already has it in. And yeah, am I showing you the right way around? Yes, this is the front. You can kind of see where my short rows are. That will hopefully block out. And yeah, it's just a really lovely pattern. The one thing I know this is probably a bit unpopular, I don't love knitting raglans. I find them a bit too repetitive for me. That just looks so funny. Yeah, so I don't know, I don't find them that engaging to knit. I'd rather knit like a drop shoulder, because I feel like you've kind of always got something new to be doing, whereas a raglan, it's kind of just the same. Bit of an unpopular knitting opinion there. It's not that I obviously don't like them, I love the fit of them, it's just actually the process of knitting it I don't enjoy as much, which is also probably why progress has stalled on this slightly. But I do really want the finished object, and I think this will be such a good transitional piece. This is kind of knit at a fingering weight and mohair gauge, so the yarns I am using are a woolly knit British wool cone, but I have like skeined up some separate balls. This is in the colour cinnamon. Oh, such a beautiful colour. It's just got so many beautiful shades in it of like yellow and rust and brown and orange, and oh, it's just so beautiful. And then I am holding it together with a strand of mohair from Knitting for Olive, which is my favourite silk mohair. This is in the colourway Rust. So they're kind of slightly different, as you can see. This one's more brown and this one's more orangey, but held together, they just, I think, create a really beautiful coloured fabric. And I quite like having a slightly different tone of mohair to my kind of main strand of wool. I just think it looks, I don't know, I just quite like the effect. And yeah, I'm really enjoying knitting this yarn together. It's just me and raglans. I just don't find them engaging enough, I think, which is completely my own fault. And the other thing was this collar is knitted completely in twisted rib, so there's a portion where you do like knit one through the back loop, knit one, purl one through the back loop, and then you kind of switch halfway through to do a knit one through the back loop, purl one, just normally. So yeah, so that, I suppose, because you need it to look twisted both sides on the kind of top section, and then it doesn't matter on the bottom section as such. But yeah, that was, not gonna lie, that was a bit of a pain doing that. It was like 10 centimeters of each. And that was a bit of a slog, but it's a beautiful pattern, and the beautiful kind of end version. I love the kind of one that they've created in the pattern photo, and Inga's was beautiful, and hers was the kind of whole reason I chose this pattern. So yeah, I am really hoping that I can just get the motivation to carry on with this, because I really want the end product, but it's not really much of a process knit for me currently, which is a bit of a shame, but it's completely my own fault for choosing something that I know raglans are not my favourite thing to knit, so it's really my own fault, but not the fault of the pattern at all. So yeah, my final WIP is another one that has been in hibernation. This is a homemade project bag, by the way. The last project bag was from the Blue Rabbit House. And this is a shawl that I've been working on for months. I think I said earlier, I'm not really much of a shawl knitter. I like wearing them, like crescent shawls especially, I really like wearing just as a scarf. But I don't know, I just don't find them engaging to knit. They're not anything I really reach for, but I do like the end result, especially in the winter and the autumn. I love the finished product, but I really just never get drawn to knitting them. I'd much rather be knitting a garment or a pair of socks, or anything really, but shawls. I don't know if it's because they're knit flat, and maybe that's what I don't like. Maybe I need to try knitting like a shawl in the round. I know there's a few colourwork shawls that use that technique. but yeah, they're just really not my favourite thing. But I really want a Vertices Unite shawl, so I'm sticking with it. So this is what I have so far. It's really not very much. So yeah, this is the Vertices Unite by Stephen West. I don't think I really need to say much about this pattern. It's a kind of, yeah, it's knit in kind of sections. Some sections are striped, some sections are plain. So I'm just not knitting section 1 or section A at the moment. So I am using a cream colour and then a pink, dusty pink colour. The yarns I'm using for this are nearly all leftovers. So this is Yarnadelic Sport or Heavy 4-ply from John Arbon in the shade Pink Moon, which I knit a soiree out of last year. I love this yarn. It's 100% Corriedale. It's absolutely beautiful. Oh, I just love it. It's probably one of my favourite yarns. I just think the colour is so beautiful. This is it in the skein. I basically massively over ordered on this yarn when I bought it, and I have like 2-3 extra skeins, which is a bit ridiculous considering this is 100 grams, which is 333 meters. So yeah, hence using it in a shawl. And then the cream color is a slightly different weight, which is probably why the stripes aren't looking super even, but I don't really mind that. This is Biche et Bouche La Petite Lambswool in, can't remember the exact colorway, but it is like the creamy white colorway, and I use this in the Talvinin that I knit for my mum, which is a colourwork jumper by Caitlin Hunter. I knit it 1 or 2 years ago for Christmas. Can't remember. It feels like a really long time ago. It's a really lovely sweater pattern. I do really love Caitlin Hunter's designs. I never find they fit me particularly well, but I think it's often just me, and the fit of colourwork yokes are never particularly great. Although actually I did knit one last year by Vanessa Pleaser that fit me pretty well, and I think it's because I chose less ease. So yeah, I sometimes struggle with the fit of colourwork yokes. I don't know if it's maybe because I have a larger bust size measurement. For reference, I'm about 105 bust. Yeah, 105. So I don't know, maybe if that, and I also I'm not super broad on my shoulders, so I don't know if maybe that's kind of where I'm going wrong. I need to do some like fit modifications. But yeah, this is leftover yarn from that. So I'm holding those two together, and basically I just haven't worked on it for months. But I don't want to rip it out because I love the yarn and I love the shawl. It's just the actual knitting of it. I think once I've done the first section, which is one of the biggest sections, I'll be fine. It comes in 2 sizes, and I am knitting the larger size, and I'm still at the point where I could knit the smaller size, but then I really want a big shawl. I just need to motivate myself basically. But I think it's just a combination of like garter stitch, knitting flat. Yeah, the yarns are lovely. It's not the yarn, and it's not the pattern, because obviously we all know Stephen West creates beautiful patterns. It's just me. I just don't love knitting these style of things. I just need to push through. Eventually I will be using this Tuku wool fingering, which is 100% finish wool, and this is the shade H35 Havu. I did buy this new actually for this project, because I did have a shade of green that I was going to use, which was a Hjelholts yarn, but it was kind of a bit too olivey, and I wanted something a bit more forest green. So I'm going to use this. And I'm also going to use some more John Arbon Yarnadelic. This is the colourway Galetta Guitar, and this is the colour that I'm using the least of, so I just have this skein and then another small mini skein as well. I bought this when I bought the Pink Moon Yarnadelic because I was really intrigued by this colour, and I do love this. I'd love a jumper out of this yarn. It's a bit similar to the Sarah jumper that I'm knitting, which just kind of shows you my colour palette. But yeah, gonna knit this. And then the final colour is another leftover, also from John Arbon. This is the John Arbon Devonia 4-ply in the colour Sage Sprig, which I knit a sprouted shawl out of last year, no, 2 years ago, by Jacqueline Cieslak. And it's, yeah, my favourite shawl. It took me 6 months to knit because, as I said, don't love knitting shawls. But it's, yeah, I love it so much. So yeah, I'm using this. So together, the kind of colour scheme we've got going on is going to basically be this, which are all my favourite colours. It's like these browns, these 2 shades of green, and then this brownie pink. Oh, I love them. So yeah, that is something I need to get back to. And I actually, do I have my swatch in here? I do. So these, I kind of did a swatch for one to get a gauge, and also to kind of see what the colours would look like together. So I just did stripes, and so that I could kind of fold and like kind of see what the colours would maybe look like. Oh, sorry. So like, yeah, this darker one and this lighter green, and then seeing what these two would look like, and yeah, just kind of wanted to play around with like yarn and like what striping combinations I could do. So yeah, need to get back to that basically. But I was really enjoying it, and well, I wasn't really enjoying it. I was enjoying all the yarns, but the process was something I wasn't loving as much. But I do need to get back to it because I love the finished result. And I've seen so many beautiful kind of versions. So I think, yeah, I just need to kind of crack on with it when I've got some time. And kind of, yeah, just need to motivate myself to really crack on with it. And I think once I get more into the swing of things, the more I'll enjoy it. So yeah, not wanting to be negative at all, just wanting to be kind of honest about what I enjoy knitting, and kind of understanding that it's okay to leave projects for ages if you're not enjoying them. I've done things where I have just ripped out, and it's been kind of sad because I'm like, oh, I did really want that, but if I'm not enjoying the process, I'm not going to push myself through it. Like knitting is such a relaxation for me, and yeah, and it's as well as it being a processing, it's also very much a looking after my mental health, and yeah, kind of a relaxation thing for me. So I don't want to be knitting things that I'm not enjoying. So just want to give you all the permission to also knit things that you enjoy and not feel like you kind of have to be knitting them, which I'm sure you're all doing anyway, but sometimes it's just nice to hear it from other knitters, I think. So yeah, those are all my WIPs. In terms of future plans, I just really want to kind of clear my needles a little bit. I've got 5 WIPs, which isn't the most I've ever had, but it is kind of a bit more than I'd usually like to have on my needles. I prefer having like 2 or 3, just because I feel like I get more stuff done that way. So I would like to kind of get through a few projects, and yeah, kind of be a bit more on track with it all. So yeah, thank you so much for watching. It's been so lovely to catch up and kind of talk about knitting again, and I hope you're all well and yeah, in kind of safe. The world feels kind of a lot at the moment, so I hope you're all doing well. And yeah, taking care of yourself and enjoying your knitting and your crafting where you can. And yeah, I will speak to you all very soon, and the winners will be down below, so I'll have already reached out to you by the time this goes live. But yeah, maybe check your messages if you entered the StoryKnitsKAL, either on Ravelry or through Instagram. And yeah, it was so lovely to chat to you all, and I'll see you all very soon. Bye.